Sarah Palin has been very active on social media recently, and she's not being super explicit about what it is that's driving her, but you're gonna see a pattern. She has a grievance, and it's bubbling up to the surface in all of her posts. So she posted this on Twitter: big tent, big party, but know your history so America can repeat the good parts. Now that sounds like just like a platitude, like, hey, we should look back on the past or whatever. But she seems to be implying that she's part of America's history that should be repeated. Many of you watching this, if you've been following politics for not that long, you might not even really be that familiar with Sarah Palin. But Sarah Palin is definitely familiar with Sarah Palin, and she thinks the party needs to acknowledge that. So let me show you some of the stuff that was linked in that Twitter post. So this graphic nonsense right here says, ecstatic for all the newcomers seeing the light, recently jumping aboard the common sense conservative train, wouldn't have it any other way, thank you, blah, 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 blah. But please know you're standing on the shoulders of giants. And so she references people like Andrew Breitbart, Rush Limbaugh, Reagan, Thatcher. And you can see in that image that she's sharing, where she's implying that everyone else now is just a fake conservative and she's a good one. She's in an image there too. She's putting herself on the level of Rush Limbaugh, Reagan, and Thatcher. Okay, that's one thing. That's her saying, I want credit for having been there before them. And, she was kind of a crazy MAGA person before crazy MAGA people. She was basically Marjorie Greene and Lauren Boebert rolled into one thing before them. But this is where it gets spicy. She shared this post by MRL Tavern. He talks through a whole bunch of stuff about Trump selecting his secretaries for different cabinet positions and says, any one of these positions I hoped Sarah Palin would get. And he goes through all this stuff saying back then, she's the mother of MAGA. Back then she was the face of the Tea Party, what would then become the MAGA movement. And she's basically saying that Sarah Palin, because she was there before these others, should have gotten one of these positions, either head of the VA, and I don't think she's a vet, is she? Energy, Interior, EPA. Again, I think all of those are wild positions to consider Sarah Palin for. But it's one thing for a fan, Daria, to be like Sarah Palin should be in Trump's cabinet. Sarah Palin is spreading all of these, so she seems to agree. What do you make about this strategy?
But John, honestly, don't you miss the good old days when Sarah Palin was the crazy one, when saying putting lipstick on a pig, that was just so outrageous, and I can see Russia from my house. That's when it was oh wow, we've really crossed the bounds. Today, that wouldn't even make headlines. So I don't know, this throwback to Sarah Palin, I do miss her. On her appointment, I'm not surprised that she didn't get an appointment. I don't know where she's getting these fan retweets from. She's probably searching her name up on X and being Sarah Palin, secretary position, and trying to find whatever support she can. The whole thing is really, really strange. I didn't know she was that close with Donald Trump to get a position. So she's kind of far down the line. I'm sure Byron Donalds and the rest of the, POC and women members of Trump's loyalty picks are also waiting for their cabinet positions too, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah. I could see Byron Donalds. He obviously has some thoughts about education, about the education we have of things like civil rights and everything. He could be head of the Department of Education. Mark Robinson could have some sort of cabinet level position having to do with the transgender population. He has a lot of thoughts and history having to do with trans people. And so I agree. They should have some positions.
Possibly, but I feel like he gave out a lot of the good ones. To Sarah Palin's point, when we're talking about the Secretary of State positions and the ones that people, really, really want. I don't know. I think those have gone out. Yeah. We got Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. We got rid of Secretary of Defense. So slim pickings.
Slim pickings. And honestly, Palin, you're not a Fox host. And or you don't, as far as I know, you're not a sexual predator. So what chance do you think you have of getting into this cabinet? And also, and my final point will be this. First of all, she apparently was an early surrogate for Trump. So if she wants to say, if loyalty is all that matters, I've been the most loyal, that could be a convincing argument. For me though, she wants to be the head of the Interior Department. What the hell does she know about that? What has she been doing for the last 10 years? You know, it should be. It should either be someone with really interesting ideas for the direction of interior or education or whatever, but they're never gonna pick anyone who actually knows anything. So in that case, you know who it should be? Interior, the announcement should be, I'm choosing, Jane Schmo, who has worked at Interior for 22 years under multiple administrations and knows everything about how it works, and so she's gonna head it. Not just like, oh yeah, I remember her being parodied on SNL a decade and a half ago, I guess she should head up Interior. They're treating our government like a joke and making it one by doing so. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?